Yeah, every day I do this, never fear losing. And when I get up in the game, your RP improving. A real problem, but I solve them all facts proof. And if you think I'm gon' fold, then you talking fool. Yeah, y'all wanna win, let me spin, boy. All done inside, I'm super fly like I'm hanging off the rim, boy. I've been winning for my kinfolk, and I put on for my city from the intro. Let's go.
I put that time in. My pride is out the roof, I get that grind in. So I'ma tell the truth, I get my grind on. You know the pressure make all of these diamonds. I tell them get back, step back, fast track, big lap, big facts. I'm past that, yeah. I'm trying to get ahead, get out the way. Now move forward, stand back, now break away. I'm about to bring it on. I ain't never backing down. Took a step into the play, from a city, from a town. I do whatever it takes. I'ma go and get this round. Oh, I'ma go all of the round. See the sights, yeah. Hop out and I'm steaming, ride around and I'm dreaming. Once I get the feeling, nobody can stop me. Hit it, I'm on goal, fending all you foes. Once I'm on the road, I'm knocking out of the door. I got the range, if you wanna come and stand up to me, pull up on me now. If you wanna challenge to me, rookie, run up on me now. I'm on the road to the top and I'm not looking back. I'm on the road to the top and I'm not looking back. I ain't never backing down. Come and step up to the plate, from a city, from a town. I do whatever it takes. I'ma go and get this round. Oh, I'ma go all of the round. I ain't never backing down. Come and step up to the plate, from a city, from a town. I do whatever it takes. I'ma go and get this round. Oh, to the town, see the sights, see the sights, see the sights, yeah.
Yeah, every day I do this, never fear losing. And when I get up in the game, your RP improving. A real problem, but I solve them all facts proof. And if you think I'm gon' fold, then you talking fool. Yeah, y'all wanna win, let me spin, boy. All done inside, I'm super fly like I'm hanging off the rim, boy. I've been winning for my kinfolk, and I put on for my city from the intro. Let's go.
I put that time in. My pride is out the roof, I get that grind in. So I'ma tell the truth, I get my grind on. You know the pressure make all of these diamonds. I tell them get back, step back, fast track, big lap, big facts. I'm past that, yeah.
Hello everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you guys are doing great. I just wanted to use this time to be able to discuss some of the aspect of the game and the trailers we've seen so far. Things look pretty cool. Apparently, the way the game just came out and everyone, and I'm surprised. Like, I'm not the only one who's literally just hyped. So I'm really looking forward to see this game flourish with time. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of different characters coming up. Unfortunate for Capcom that the roster got leaked. I really feel bad for Capcom considering I mean, it was a year worth of content. Apparently they could have just created the hype the way SNK did with the King of Fighters. Each trailer every fortnight. It kind of helps the devs to kind of build that momentum and keep everyone really excited about the game. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Someone leaked the whole roster for Street Fighter 6. So yeah, we we're not going to go much into that. You know, whatever is done is done. Unfortunately, you know, there isn't really much we can do something about it. So what the purpose of streaming today was to discuss some of the you know, let's examine the gameplay and some of the things from the game, and it will really help us you know, look at the game from a very, you know, close perspective. So that's why I would rather not explain what are the parries and everything. I'm going to watch a video of Maximilian, who was there to get a chance. Like, he got the chance to literally just, you know, play the game you know, with devs and everyone. So he also got to, you know, speak to the team and devs and everything. So we're gonna have a closer look into whatever we're going to be seeing in this video. So yes, I'm really excited. Let's go ahead and have a look. Right, so I'm about to play the video. Let's go with that. I mean, I really like the you know, this main theme. So we're gonna watch Max explaining you know, what he saw there. So, you know, let's have a look. Full. Like,
what's up, dudes? Max here. So today's a pretty important day. I have.
Okay, hold on a second. I might want to take him down so I can a little add something to whatever if I need to. So I think this should be fine. So let's go.
I've just returned home and I'm in the process of dropping a whole bunch of video files that I won't be able to sync up with exactly what's going on with my commentary here, because there's a lot of it. I played a lot of Street Fighter 6 today, and thanks to Jeff Keighley and the Summer Games Fest Play Days event.
So, okay, just to get your attention right. So remember, every time some new color is emerging, know that it could be a meter gauge or something special is happening. Just like, you know, you will get EX moves. You know, it has different animation to that, right? So the Street Fighter 6 is all about colors and paint and everything. You know, just to kind of give the street, you know, art to it. So just pay attention to all of that.
Here,
so this is parry.
There's a lot of it. I played a lot of Street Fighter 6 today, and thanks to Jeff Keighley and the Summer Games Fest.
Counter. How?
I played a lot of Street Fighter 6 today, and
what? Like, did he block the
here,
fireball?
Because there's a lot of it. I played a lot of Street Fighter 6 today.
Oh, and apparently that did not make a hit
here,
on the left.
Counter
hit.
I played a lot of Street Fighter
3
6
hits,
today.
and then he punished it just because he got late.
Play Days event.
Okay.
Capcom showed up this event. The two lead, actually the lead producer and the lead director for the game, Nakayama-san and Matsumoto-san, were both there from Capcom to answer a lot of questions of mine. And there's a lot to talk about, and there's going to be a lot of videos for this over the next couple of days, because I did get direct footage. If you guys have the opportunity, I highly recommend you watch this in 4K 60, because it is probably one of the best ways you can actually see the footage of this game.
True.
Anyway, I wanted to focus this first video about the mechanics of the game, and overall my impressions of how it feels. The first raw impressions of Street Fighter 6 and my overall thoughts over time. And this is
did you see? Just pay attention to this turtle at the background on the rock stone.
And overall, my impressions of how it feels.
Check it out.
The first raw impressions of Street Fighter 6 and my
there
goes. Thoughts over time.
There he goes. And then he's now moving
to
himself towards the water or something.
For like the first time that they're publicly available for 10 plus years, and sometimes my opinion will change as I spend some time with the game. And sometimes that's not for the positive. Sometimes it's actually like amazing in the first few minutes to 15 minutes to hour. And then I'll come back and I'll be kind of like, have some gripes with it.
So this, when Luke literally just, you know, turned green while running towards Ryu. See, the color
15
changes.
minutes to hour, and then
What is that? So he spun the meter from above. Now pay attention to the meter gauge down there.
It's actually like amazing in the first few minutes to 15 minutes to hour, and then I'll come
Where
back
he spends the meter,
and I'll be kind of
nothing
like
happens.
have some gripes with it towards the
Down
end of it. So I have this like honeymoon phase with some games, right?
Street Fighter
my situation is
6 is also focusing a lot on the
first
drive
thing
moves,
that I think
right?
is going to come to
The
everybody's
EX moves.
mind, if there's one word that I can
Just like
explain
KOF.
about the game, is that it
They
feels
also
heavy.
understood
Quote,
that
unquote,
this is-
heavy is the term that a lot of people were tossing around and what a lot of people feel about it. Because it's true, a lot of stuff in the
I
game
love this
does have
character.
a lot
I
of weighted
did
impact
not
to
like
it.
him in the
Even
beginning,
though,
but I think
the
it's
characters are
started
moving at a
to
relatively
really
similar
grow on
speed and
me.
pace as
Now.
even like Street Fighter 5. Maybe not as quick and speedy as Street Fighter 4, but there is definitely a weight and oomph to things. There is definitely an intention to a lot of attacks that
I really love this expression thing, right? You can definitely press buttons.
To a lot of attacks.
I do believe
that
to
is
maybe
very
change it,
representative of the
change
first playable
your
build of
expression
something.
going
And
into the next match.
It definitely feels that
Very
way with
cool.
Street Fighter 6. The game
And of
feels
course, we've got
very
our
weighty
favorite
and very impactful
Final Fight stage.
as a result. But seeing as this is the first playable
Nice.
build, I have never been in a situation where the first version of
See,
a playable
now pay attention to this character in the background, the first boss of Final Fight.
version of a fighting game
He's gonna now
that
jump
I
on the
tried was the
car.
exact same as when
and-
it came
and
out,
go
so I
sit
almost
on the
guarantee you
car.
a lot of this stuff is
Really
going to go
cool.
through some revisions, if not changes, if not potentially drastic changes outside of the core mechanics. But let's talk about
Yes.
that. My first impression outside of the game feeling heavy and weighted was that the characters did feel like they had some tools. There was definitely a lot of stuff that we could do per character, and especially characters like Jamie definitely had an absolutely gigantic moveset. That could be modified because of the drink
I am
meter,
really
and also
interested
had a
in playing
ridiculous
Jamie,
amount of
by the
target
way.
combos, some stuff very much resembling that of Yoon/Yang in the old Street Fighter 3 series. So Jamie's a stacked character that can do an absolute ton of stuff.
I might literally
But
just,
when it
you
came
know,
to first
main
like
him or
figuring
something.
things
I
out,
mean,
like
he's that cool.
combo-wise, how does the game feel combo-wise? What is possible? Does this game have confirms, like very open-ended confirms, like games of Street Fighter 4,
Boss.
where you can go from
The
lights
whole
to mediums
roster
or lights
of
to heavies,
Final Fight.
or is it like Street Fighter 5, which primarily focuses on mediums to mediums, maybe in some situations medium to heavies? It didn't really feel like either one. And I will say, the impression of the game is that it doesn't really specifically feel initially like Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 4. I'd
So
say
both
of all of
did
them,
a counter hit and
they
it
like Street
traded.
Fighter 5 or
Right?
Street Fighter 4.
So wow. So if the
Really
frames are
specifically
literally
feel
on time
initially like
and
Street
they
Fighter
collide,
5
it's
or
a
Street
trade.
Fighter
Both
4.
of them get
I'd
away.
say of all
that's
of them,
that's cool.
There's one game that it feels the most like personally, and it's Street Fighter 3, although it's still a lot different. If there's one thing I have to tell you about Street Fighter 6, it's the fact that the game is still Street Fighter through and through. It's hard to pinpoint whether or not it's just Alpha 3 or Alpha 2 or Super Turbo or Street Fighter 4 or
Max
Street Fighter
isn't
5.
really certain.
There's little bits and pieces of like everything in this game, and it truly gives it its own identity. I sort of use the example of like Resident Evil 2 Remake compared to the original Resident Evil 2.
Yes.
They're both Resident Evil 2. Like
So
clearly,
Max is trying to suggest that they are not remaking, but they're reimagining the old games, right? So this is what his reference to Resident Evil 2 remake and 3.
well, one's being shared and played through a completely different
What the
perspective.
hell? What was
The example of
Poison
like
doing
Resident Evil 2
back there?
Remake
Oh, she's carrying a
compared
dog? Oh,
to
cat.
the original Resident Evil 2.
Oh, yeah, cat.
They're both Resident Evil 2, like clearly, but one's being
It's so cool if you pay attention to
Compared
the
to the
background of the stage. This dude right in the alley looks like a familiar character. You know, the guy who's above there in the balcony with the red cap also kind of gives a suggestion that, you know, Billy Kane. Because Billy has, you know, these kind of streets where he dwells.
Resident Evil 2.
it's
They're both Resident Evil
so
2,
cool
like,
that
clearly,
these
but
games
one's being shared and played from a completely
share
different
ideas
perspective.
from
That
each other's
perspective
games.
is literally what Street Fighter 6
And
is.
that's her Kagura Chizuru win
Taking
pose.
a lot of things from previous games and retooling them in a way that feels
Two views,
completely
let's
unique
say.
and kind of unlike any other Street Fighter game I've played. And did that
I still really love this.
completely unique
See,
and kind of unlike any
I mean,
previous game.
if
and
I'm
retooling
pissed
them in
on
a way
you, I
that
might
feels
react
completely
pissed,
unique and kind of unlike any other Street
in the
Fighter
next
game,
game,
I've played.
and if you press
And did
buttons,
that
this
lead
is
to
so
an inherent,
cool.
really good first impression in the first, like, I'd say 15 to 30 minutes of me playing the game? Not so much. Figuring all this stuff out, because this game has a lot of stuff the characters can do, you can't immediately go to just one.
DP was parried?
Because this game has a lot of stuff the characters can do, you can't
There you go.
immediately
See?
go to just
So I want to
stuff
pay
out.
attention to the
Because this game
bars
has a
he
lot of stuff
had.
the characters can
So
do, you can't immediately go to just one thing that, like, sort of works, and you're sort of like,
how?
can do, you can't immediately go to just one thing
Did
that,
he
like,
spend
sort of
meter doing that?
a lot
I
of
don't
stuff the
see
characters
that
can do,
happening.
you can't immediately
That's
go
just
to
a straight
one
parry.
thing that, like, sort of works, and you're sort of,
And
like,
it
finding
says punish
solutions.
counter.
There's a lot of mechanics here. There's a lot of stuff to figure out, and I can't immediately tell you, like, I was absolutely flabbergasted initially by the gameplay at the very start. But I can tell you I was absolutely blown away
See,
by the visuals.
again, some parries.
Play at the very start. But I can tell you I was absolutely blown away by the visuals and the presentation, which are something that you can easily see on screen. That's something that we can share together. But the feel of the game and how eventually it felt was a little wearisome at start. And then that kind of changed.
Man, looks
when
beautiful
I
to me.
eventually
I mean,
played some developers.
realism.
And these devs had
Finally,
a bit more time,
there
obviously, with the
isn't
game.
really-
And they have a bit more of an understanding of how to utilize these drive mechanics, because the drive
Some
gauge
2D
is
like
essentially
movements, right?
a dictator
I'm
of
glad
how
on
this entire
this
game
very
can be
avenue
played.
they were
And
done.
as I was playing other people that were truly utilizing this stuff and weren't, like, just sort of pressing buttons or, you know, learning the game for the first time or just trying to do supers or specials or anything like that, finally getting into some matches where you had to come up with clutch moments, you had to come up with situations that you had to find solutions for, I realized how much decision making I was making with the drive gauge between being defensive, being offensive, different ways I can be offensive, different ways I could be defensive. And this is where things started to open up quite a bit. And I would say my initial first impression, where it feels like,
I have
you know,
a feeling.
this technically feels like a more
I have a feeling like everyone is talking about parries. I have a feeling that Capcom did sort of, you know, accepted the Shatter Strike ideas from SNK King of Fighters. This is just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I have observed.
more simplified version, potentially even of previous Street Fighters, even though Street Fighter V is a relatively simplified game compared to Street Fighter 4. That really changed when I realized how much of my thought process was going into making decisions with the drive gauge and realizing how much I got, when do I have it, how
I have a feeling I must get my camera above. I know it could have been really pissing you guys while watching this, so let me just quickly fix that. Because yo, Jack Krauser, Luke, man, how's it going? It's been a while, man. Good to see you, man. I hope you're doing great. Okay, we're going into this one, and then this, and we take it up. Over here, transform, central, horizontal. Yeah, I think this should do. This should do though. Okay, let's go and get back to. Hey, my man, missed you, man. I missed you too, man, Luke. It's been a while. I don't blame you for missing me because I missed
How much meter do
everyone.
I have?
I mean,
What can I use
and I
here?
haven't
What can I
been
use there? Am I
really
in the corner?
streaming,
Like
so
all this
yeah.
kind of stuff that isn't specifically unique to this game, but on top of all these other mechanics, yes, there was a lot of decisions. There was a lot of decision making.
See
and
that?
That situation specifically is
This is
very
so
much like Street Fighter 3
cool,
Third Strike.
man.
Even though the parry, as has been explained, and we've sort of
Reversal?
even
Has
though
he
the parry
used a
as,
meter to land that
has been
reversal?
explained,
Yes,
much
he
like
did.
Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
So
even though the parry as has
There you
been
go.
explained, and we've sort of delved into it and figured out
So
how
you
the parry
spend the
works,
meter?
doesn't work like a Third Strike parry at all. It really doesn't. It doesn't
So he
really
cleared
work
that
like a Street Fighter.
that question from everyone. Oh, is that gonna be a Third Strike kind of a parry? But you know, Max clearly answers that isn't going to be the case. How's Killshot? I mean, he's good. He should be around.
Like Ryu has. It truly is something unique in this game, and it does set up for some situations where it feels like there's a lot of risk reward.
Why did you get him?
I'm sorry, this is sounding generally broad. I'm trying to summarize the experience in total, which can be a little challenging because Street Fighter 6 is taking so many things from so many other games and crafting
the
so many
expressions
out of
and
it.
everything.
That,
They've definitely
like
leveled
the
up the
neutral
looks
was very
of the
fascinating,
characters.
is what I'm trying to
and
say.
to me,
the buttons felt very good on some characters, much different
my
than
humble,
Street
in my
Fighter 5,
humble
which had very
opinion,
sumpy buttons on
this
some.
game was bound
Things
to
felt
look
good.
this
A lot of looking
beautiful.
forward
Why?
attacks,
Because
a lot of
it's
familiarity to classic Street Fighters. In fact, I feel
Unreal,
like a lot of them
not
felt very
Unreal
Third
Engine,
Strike-ish,
but
even though there
RE
was only
Engine.
one,
Capcom
like,
has
Shoto.
spent a
There's
lot
only
of
one
time
character we sort of
developing
share
this
that with.
engine.
The other being Chun-Li, which was absolutely crazy. Chun is a nutty character. Her crouching stance can also lead directly into 6 different attacks. Like,
What?
yeah, when she's in her crouching stance mode, which you can go into almost from any normal, it felt like. Very, very few limitations.
That's
That thing led to
weird.
a lot of different stuff. And each one of those buttons had a specific situation, whether it was a low, a sweep, an overhead, a launcher, quite a bit of stuff. And I think I was actually really
is he
impressed with
suggesting
Chun-Li because
Chun-Li
she
to
felt
be
like a
S
genuinely
tier early
different
on?
character, right? I think that's what they were going for with the classics, with Ryu and Chun. They wanted to make these characters feel unique than they had felt before. And adding the Denjin mode to Ryu, adding
nice.
his new combo ender,
Oh my
I think it's
God.
Hashogeki,
That's
which does have some
hurt.
interesting stuff to it. I believe it really felt like if the heavy one was on block, you were really plus after. So there was like attacks that have a lot of startup but leave you relatively plus as a result. It seemed like there was a lot of moments like that sprinkled throughout the game. Either way, as I was getting used to the mechanics and getting used to utilizing all of this
was
drive
that a
gauge,
cross up? It was. I mean, clearly.
as I was getting used to the mechanics and getting used to utilizing
There you
all of
go.
this drive gauge and my meter, which is something I have to talk about again in a second.
And Max also mentioned something about, you know, heavy. He found the game heavy. The character looks a lot heavier. I personally think, you know, it is what it is. It has to be like this
heavy
now.
nuance of the game
especially
started
for
to
the
make a
modern
lot of
game.
sense, right?
Tekken
Because
Tag Tournament
as
2
you
was
were
very
conducting
light.
yourself with these
Tekken
characters, it
7
felt like
was
they were weighted
heavy.
and you couldn't do much. But as soon as you put yourself in a moment where something landed and then you just would just absolutely crack the opponent over with this huge attack, it felt
So he
something
spent
landed
a
and then you
super,
just would
right?
just absolutely
So-
crack
but he
the
still
opponent over
has
with this
2
huge
more
attack. It felt
meters.
very good, right?
Interesting.
And even a down HP into Shoryuken or something like that with
Is that gonna
Ryu
get punished?
was doing
Oh,
quite
yes.
a bit of damage.
Good
So
punish.
the game
Did they right punish?
Shoryuken or something like that with Ryu
Reversal,
was doing
counter
quite a bit of
punish,
damage.
yes.
So the game feels somewhat comparable damage-wise to Street Fighter 5. I wouldn't say exactly the same, but sort of similar. But at the same time, it doesn't feel there's as much of a snowball effect, at least very early on. This is a very early version of the game. The other thing I wanted to talk about is meter, and not the drive gauge meter. I mean the super meter. And you gain super meter by I think doing specials, traditionally attacks on hit, attacks on block. And as I was playing the game, I didn't realize how much super I had because I was spending a lot.
Okay, hold on. What did he
I think
mention?
doing specials, traditionally attacks on hit, attacks on block, and as I was playing the game, I didn't realize how much super I had because I was spending a lot of it on my drive gauge stuff, right? I was spending my meters on EX gauge, or they're called OD moves, that are essentially EX moves from previous Street Fighter games. So as that meter was coming back, right? Because even as you
Why
attack
didn't
the
he
opponent,
mention
I'm
something
pretty
about
sure
the CA?
that my drive gauge
That
was
was
also
written.
returning, and I was also getting regular meter.
One of the funniest
So there's
things,
a lot of
bro,
meter to be
is
used
your
here.
water
Like, you get a
puzzle. I
level 1,
think
a
I
level
was
2, and a level
watching
3 in this game.
you for
And the
2
level 3
years
is
complaining.
pretty unique and leads to some
Oh man,
pretty
that
unique
was
situations that
that
we'll
was
break down later.
the worst day, man.
But yeah, there was a lot of bar for supers, and I think that's actually
Man,
really cool.
I love this
In several
character. I'm going to
situations,
play
a lot of
him.
characters
See?
level 2s,
See the
did lead to
expression?
install supers.
Man,
Every-
I love this character, man.
Several situations, a lot of characters level 2s did lead to install supers. Not everybody though, but for Jamie, he did have a proper install super on his like level 2 that allowed him to drink a whole bunch during the super, and then it just left him in like sort of like looked like a very, very much high level drunk mode, which he gets access to a bunch of different moves. Ryu could charge up a Denjin close range attack, then you could hold it down and it would eventually guard crush the opponent, which was pretty interesting. And then Chun would just have her classic third strike super on her level 2.
This is his DP.
That led to a launcher that you
We
can
drank 2
literally
now.
follow up with a bunch of stuff just like her SA2 in
that
third strike.
reversal.
So that was fascinating, right? Luke also just had a couple general brawler specialists. He had like his projectile super on the first one, which was similar to his V trigger. And then he also had his, there's like a straight like brawler one and the level 3 that had unique invincibility.
Nice.
Actually, I think almost all of these, outside of the install super, had invincibility. It felt like supers in general, even the level 1s, had
block,
invulnerability at the start. Which is interesting and it's good.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think we have to talk about as well is the parry.
I'm just
And
really
again,
looking
the
forward
parry is
to him
not specifically
drinking
a
the
third
fourth
strike parry,
time
it's not
and getting
specifically
his
a super
hair
five
out.
parry. It's something in between, and it's something that has a lot of recovery.
Oh no! Don't give me an ad, for God's sake. Seriously?
The parry does come with an inherent big risk and big reward. The big reward, however, is in the perfect parry. Because even if you are parrying like regular attacks, lights or mediums, from the opponent, there's enough recovery from just the general parry that might not allow you to follow up with an attack in that situation. You might not be able to hit like a medium punch in response and then, you know, do a special afterwards. You might be able to do a super maybe in some of those situations, or maybe a dragon punch. But the big one comes if you
So that was
regular
the
parry,
EX
like,
one?
maybe in some of those
spend the
situations,
meter?
or maybe a dragon
First
punch.
one, and
But
there
the big
comes
one
the
if
second
you
one.
regular
The meter
parry like
did
heavy
a
attacks,
lot of damage.
right? If you regular
Wow.
parry things that have a bit of recovery.
oh.
The fishing
You're gonna go
with
for the super,
like,
for
big,
the kill.
long attacks that have a lot of recovery can be kind of scary in this game, because you will eventually get parried and then the person can do something with it. That sort of goes out the window when you perfect parry, because even if you perfect parry like long attacks or anything in general, the entire screen slows down. Everything sort of comes to a halt, and you get what feels like a metric ton of time to do whatever you want. So if you want to just lead to down HP, you know, DP
that was
super,
the
or something like that,
EX.2?
you can.
And
Which
he
is kind
had
of
the
interesting.
access
perfect
to
parry
these
is
meters
really where,
even in the first round.
So-
like the first few bars underneath
Halt, and
the
you get
live
what
bar
feels like a
looks
metric
like
ton
they
of
were
time to do
already
whatever
there
you want.
to start
So,
the round with,
if you
just
want to
like
just leave
that.
down HP,
So
you know,
Ryu has
DP
already
super or
spent
something
one
like that, you can.
counter punish.
Which is kind of interesting. The perfect parry is really where
Reversal,
the game starts to feel kind of
punish
first strike
counter.
like. And those situations when you did land a perfect parry was like a big moment where it's like, oh man, here's where I can make a comeback. I landed some clutch parry because someone was just autopiloting a block string.
Nice.
And yes, I found in several situations when people would just start going for block strings, yeah, parry would eat that stuff up real good. So
the third time.
it's like I said, it's familiar
nice.
but different. It's not the exact.
So how is that
just start
being
going for block
crushed?
strings.
Is it?
Yeah, parry would eat that stuff up real good.
Has he spent the meter?
So it's like
So
I said,
that's
it's familiar
what he's-
but different. It's
that
not the
was
exact same
focus
thing as
attack.
Third Strike. It's not the exact same thing as Street
From
Fighter 5, but it
Akuma
is
to
something.
with Ryu,
And for
man,
anybody that's
that's
seeing
crazy.
people like parrying full supers and stuff like that, you're going to see that a lot.
Nice.
All
He's
you
gonna
have to
drink
do
the
to
fourth
do that
time.
is just
Get
hold down
drunk.
the buttons.
We wanna see
That's
your
all you
beautiful
have to do.
hair,
The thing you have to
Jabby.
practice is when it ends. 'cause you
Get
have to
drunk.
actually
Oh,
end your
no,
parry
he
timing fast
lost
enough
it.
to exit the parry animation and then go for something or other. But the parry seemed relatively quick. It seemed good.
Yo, what's up? Get YouTube Premium. Aren't you watching Game Awards?
And you get a huge reward for parrying things. Like, the parry doesn't just get you
Is it still live?
Reward. No, it gives you a very
I thought I
big
missed
chunk.
the stream and it's
actually,
not live anymore.
I think it's one of the most reliable ways to rebuild your drive gauge is by parrying stuff. So what effect that's going to have on the fireball game, we don't know exactly. Because if somebody is
careful there, nice cross,
like a full drive gauge, they don't have anything else to gain by parrying, so they'll try to parry, but it doesn't. That means you can still throw fireballs, you know. In third strike,
okay, again a focus attack. Can you believe that Ryu can do that in a corner?
That means you can still throw fireballs, you know.
And
in third
he
strike,
spends a bloody meter. Hold on a second.
So they'll try to parry, but it doesn't. That means you can still throw fireballs, you know.
There you go.
In third strike, that was different.
Did he?
So they'll try to parry.
Actually crush this
means you can still throw fireballs. You know. In third strike, that was different because you would essentially throw fireballs to somebody that could parry. And
okay, Jamie, please get drunk. And I see your beautiful hair. Oh no, Ryu says.
Meter?
No, bro,
it might be something different in this footage, but parrying seemed like it only got back drive gauge. So in moments where people had full drive gauge, it's just like, yeah, start tossing stuff. And they might not take chip damage from it, but you're essentially establishing your zoning at the beginning, and establishing the fact that you can use these. And if they're being done from full screen, people are just going to parry them, but that's kind of fine because you know you're sort of utilizing that space. So
nice.
I don't think there's like an answer for
DP
the fireball game in general.
So this
is the
time
he's
going to
be amazing?
Really aggressive.
Is it going to work out? Is this going to be okay?
Fourth time, and here he goes.
Fireballs from full screen in general.
I love this drunken move.
Projectiles still seem fairly useful, and responding
so
to some stuff, depending on the input lag of the monitor or otherwise.
Is that gonna hit? No.
A little bit of time because projectiles are moving fairly quick.
EX, so
at least it seemed that way.
This move has
and
two
Ryu,
extras.
which are the two characters with primary projectiles, and even Luke's to an extent. They're moving pretty fast, and I was kind of surprised, especially Ryu with a charged Denjin. Holy hell, dude! He chucked some plasma mad quick, and that thing goes across the screen super fast. So you might get caught off guard in that situation. Either way, there's a lot to be said about the drive gauge and how each one of the individual drive gauge mechanics is working, and how they are being utilized, and how one is like a focus attack, how the drive impact is very focus attack-like, but it does have weaknesses because you can't parry it. And how the drive rush, which is the ability for you to combo out of normals into other normals by running forward, isn't as I'd say simple as we thought. It still really depends on hit stun. You can't just do two crouching shorts and then run forward and then get a down HP.
So now that is being loaded again.
Few times I was able to land these drive rush combos. That didn't seem like it was the case. These are super expensive, so you don't want to do them all the time.
So you can't spend any of that during that time. You're just saving.
I will say there was some genuinely interesting interactions with the drive gauge and other mechanics. Where if somebody was attempting, and I was theorizing
this thing that I want to know is that
if do a drive reversal, which is essentially a V reversal / alpha counter from previous Capcom fighting game.
What?
If somebody was attempting, and I was theorizing this early, if somebody was attempting to do a drive reversal, which is essentially a V reversal / alpha counter from previous Capcom fighting games, you could bait those. Like, you can absolutely bait those. And they have a certain amount of startup for every single character. But if you know somebody's going to try to get out of that situation, you can put jabs there, recover faster than the jab, and parry their V reversal / drive reversal. So I had that happen a few times for me. Also, I had some crazy moments where someone would get a well-timed drive impact on me, and I'd be hitting them, and all these attacks were getting soaked because it felt like the attack, or the move in general, just would soak 3 normals or 3 any attacks at all. But I would see the fact that they did hit drive gauge, and I would have enough time to cancel my normals into either a super or a level 3. And yes, there was a big drive impact moment where this dude was soaking up all these hits from his drive impact that I was throwing out. And on the last one, I canceled it into a level 3, and it totally beefed the hell through it and absolutely crushed the drive impact, which was an interesting interaction that I was sort of not ready for. There's another note that I have to make before, and we'll do a lot of these specifics and breakdowns of all this gameplay that you're seeing a bit later. But there were some interesting things that we thought were taking place in the game, and they aren't.
I really love his
win pose. There is no special to super cancels inherently. You cannot just do low forward, fireball, Shinko Hadouken, right? That doesn't actually work. However, you can do low forward.
Man's
fireball,
expression thing is getting it's new.
That does
and
work.
I think
There
it.
is special
Oh
to super
wow,
cancels
she
when
can
your
go
character has a
under
level 3 super available.
fireballs like
choice.
that,
I
man.
kind of
That's
wish
crazy.
that the game didn't have that. We'll talk about that later.
The
The things I
2D
like and
looks
dislike about the
really
game.
S tier, by the way.
That was kind of fascinating. There was some interesting situations where you could link into a super combo. For example, you can do low forward EX fireball from relatively normal distance, and then you could time and link a Shinko Hadouken after that would move pretty quick across the screen,
that's
and they would
counter?
juggle into it. So there is moments where your usage of drive gauge, right, can be used strictly to combo directly into supers, which is something that
Come again?
can be used strictly to combo directly.
Hold on.
Use brain, and they would juggle into it. So there is moments where your usage of drive gauge, right, can be used strictly to combo directly into supers.
Okay.
Which is something that hasn't really been around in a lot of Street Fighter games, going from EXs to supers and using that juggle opportunity. I guess, you know, of course, in some situations,
Can you
there
believe
definitely is
though?
there.
Everything
But there's a lot
was
of nuance
parried.
there that I wasn't able to fully discover, especially with some of the other characters that weren't like a Shoto like Ryu. There's definitely a lot. I'm hopefully going to get more time with the game tomorrow. I'm hopefully going to get more opponents that are utilizing the gauge just as much as I was, trying to figure out where it goes and how it can be used. Because I truly feel that I was having the most fun when people were really utilizing all these mechanics in clever, unique, and weird ways. And there is absolutely an effort from the developers, as they told me personally, that they learned a lot of lessons from Street Fighter V. And over that game's development, as it continued, one of the things that they really wanted to influence Street Fighter VI with, based on Street Fighter V, is the fact that they wanted the drive gauge to give players a level of individuality. They wanted the drive gauge to essentially add a freedom to the game that might or might not be a direct answer to a lot of the concerns that people had with SF5 in general. Essentially add a player Street Fighter V
just want to pay attention.
a level of individuality. They wanted the drive gauge to essentially add a freedom to the game.
So
he
spent all of the 3 meters just to get the super.
Concerns that people had with SF5 in general, which is interesting because.
Bawakar, is there any good Street Fighter players in Pakistan? Yes,
in some
there are quite
situations,
few
once again,
players.
like this game feels like a lot of Street Fighter games put together. But the one that keeps calling me back the most because of the decision making, because of how, yes, some players are playing really defensive and some players are using their stuff very offensively, and a little bit in between, and then using some for clutch moments. Like, there's a lot of really cool stuff that happens in between there that I'm kind of addicted to. Those moments are what make me love Third Strike so much. Third Strike isn't a big combo game. What happens in neutral is that there's a ridiculous amount of decision making. And do I think this one has as much crazy decisions and things and permutations that can happen after a jump or after a throw or all this crazy stuff after a wake up? Probably not, because there is a little bit more risk reward associated in this game. But I think that is intentional.
There's got to be plenty of options to play from.
Where you can sort of turn things around.
That's exactly why I think that this game,
or if you get a good tell on your opponent,
be so cool.
And it looks cool. I have to explain that again. When this stuff works, it looks really cool, man, and it leads to some really badass big moments that is very fun. And those are the things that I was sort of hunting by the end of my gameplay session. Either way, this was sort of off the top of my head. I'm sorry if there was not much construction to this conversation, but I'm going to do my best to break down some matches on stream as soon as I possibly can and get some more footage as soon as I possibly can as well to break that down and just be more familiar with every character and all the system mechanics. Either way, I very much appreciate you guys leaving feedback on this video. Any thumbs up would be awesome. That stuff absolutely goes a ton on this platform, and I usually don't ask for it. So I very much appreciate it if there's a comment or a question down below. I'll do my best to answer a lot of questions that you guys have had, at least in the direction that I actually know and have been able to figure out over quite a bit of playtime. Either way, I'll be back with more Street Fighter 6 videos, a lot without any commentary, so you guys can get a load of that and fully hear what's going on in the background and break down mechanics and all that kind of stuff that's coming in the near future. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.
All right. see the final round. I mean, the ambience and everything looks really cool. Again, the parry, and that was a wall splat. What the hell? Pussy? Oh my god. This is cool. Did she spend all 3 minutes? Okay, it's windy outside. Okay. Oh, wow. I didn't do that. And he carried that shit. Wow. So, I mean, everything overall, I mean, looks really promising as far as the game is concerned. I am pretty hyped, to be honest. And, yeah, I think it will be a very good game. Considering you know, it has all the modern you know, aspects of a good fighting game, in my humble opinion. And you know, you've got a pretty decent you know, bit of everything. I mean, rollback. You've got so many other good things, man. This is really good. And remember, it's a 6-button game. Remember? So yeah, so let's have a quick look to the Tekken World Tour structure before we go into anything else further. So yep. And thank you anyone who just tuned in, man. Really appreciate it.